Welcome back after the break. And thank you for your inspirational talk so far. Now we are on to the discussions. And for those offline and online, please stay engaged in discussions. We have already got a number of questions. So don't be shy. We want to catch as many as possible. And we have our 5 speakers in the panel. Dr. Ko with us here, and 4 Nordics on screen behind us, I believe. Frode, what do we have of questions?
Well, we have. It's been an interesting evening so far, and I think what we would like to also, of course, engage the audience, and we will have some of those questions raised after. But I think also there's some time since some of the speakers have been involved, so we'll turn back to that, and maybe one generic questions. We have now, of course, we're in the midst of a pandemic. Everybody's talking about COVID-19, but you have touched upon in different aspects. The speakers have touched upon lifestyle diseases, and some of them might be in a way forgotten in difficult times, since we are focusing so much on COVID-19, even though we're here also that COVID-19 has helped up to reintroduce some issues. But I think what I would like to do is to ask each and every one of our speakers tonight, and try to be very short. But if there's one specific item that a challenge that can be helped through e-health or technical health solutions, that you might find one specific thing, one important challenge, and maybe starting with Professor Ko. And I would ask you to refrain from going more than 1 minute. Thank you.
I think that for the containment COVID-19, technology is quite important and for the contact tracing and so forth, but people's behavior change is quite important. Everybody should be careful about these things. I think in most of Asian countries, COVID-19 is not spreading because everybody is wearing masks. Individually, everybody is care about the others, not because of his probability of getting infected, but because of very small probability of he's being infected and affecting others. So the kind of behavior, the being careful, combined with the technology and with some institutional amendment, like in case of Korea, like I said, the privacy protection is quite strict in Korea, but in case of COVID-19, we just allow contact tracing for all the confirmed patient. So
behavioral.
So combining technology, institutional amendment, and behavior is the core to cope with the COVID-19, I think.
Thank you very much. Yeong, are you with us on your screen? No, doesn't seem like Yeong. Maybe we can jump then to Trine for the same question. Are you with us from Norway?
Yes, I'm with you from Norway. Well, it was a generic question, but anyway, I think it has become received wisdom that the pandemic has caused societies and institutions to adopt digital innovations at an astonishing pace, and a part of this is a challenge that the healthcare services is maybe understandable for not understandable for many people. So I think that's one of the things that we need to look into, how these track and traces, all the things that we are looking into when it comes to digital solutions will be in the future, because we need people to understand these different solutions and technology that we are now flourishing into the different societies. I think that's one of the main things that we need to look at.
Thank you, Trine. It's behavior and people mentioned in both replies. That's quite interesting, actually. Maybe I can challenge also Päivi in Finland. Your views on this issue?
Thank you. Yes, I would continue saying that the implementation of the new solutions, because as Daniel said that it's not about the wearables, it's not about AI, it's not about the technology, it's about processes. I would say that you have to change the way you work and act, new kind of professional teamwork, and how then also the patients and people see themselves, and how they would be more empowered also. So I would say in Finland anyhow, we see a lot of solutions, but they are not implemented in our system. So there is a lot of potential we don't yet have here. So how we could then in our Nordic society, where we have the universal health coverage and mostly then public sector as a provider here, then to get the right incentives for professionals then to change their work and try to have the continuous improvement and changing and being able to adapt so that they can take all the new solutions in their processes.
Thank you, Päivi. Moving over to Denmark, perhaps, Henrik, what would be your take on this?
Well, I think the key technology is definitely digitalization. As you saw in the example, it helped us progress the new digital strategy. We use digitalization to establish this overview of hospital capacity, but also the overview of testing capacity, and also agree with what was just being said about culture changes and opportunities actually created by the pandemic. Because what we have seen in Danish hospitals and in Danish healthcare is that the pandemic made a lot of things possible which were not possible before, both in the relation between clinical professionals who suddenly said, well, in record time, things could change in a hospital that would take months in normal circumstances, but also the relation between our industry and public authorities. We got a very important push to public-private cooperation. Some of our big companies actually made their company laboratories available to increase the testing capacity. And that is, of course, something that is in the situation of the pandemic, but I think we should think about ways to preserve that change of culture, ways to preserve and exploit that new way of public-private partnership in the future. And then, of course, also use the gain we have got in progress on digitalization to keep that gain for the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Henrik. And then moving eastwards to Sweden again, Daniel, what would be your comments on this issue?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I think it's a bit two-folded. First of all, I think we need to transform the healthcare sector as such from being a rather traditional reactive body to, of course, a more preventive and proactive. Meaning that if we are about to change people's lives so they won't suffer from those lifestyle diseases, of course we need to focus more on preventive services, so we can provide the population to become more well-being. But when it comes to those that's still suffering or already suffering from lifestyle diseases, of course, digital solutions is the way forward. For example, in Sweden, and as I mentioned, we are working together with another company providing care for asthmatics. We have startups in Sweden that are into the area of both diabetes and hypertension, meaning that we can start to implement self-monitoring tools. You can start measuring yourself. That gives the patient a lot more power and understanding of their own diseases and their overall conditions. And also the data that is being processed is so much more in so many dimensions, meaning that you can start to individualize, for example, treatment protocols and such for all those suffering from the lifestyle services. Today, I think all the healthcare systems are pretty much the same, we have generic processes. If you have this disease, this is a standard protocol. You should meet the healthcare sector or your primary care doctor twice a year. This is only hypothetical figures, but for example, if 50% of those with one certain diagnosis or condition, if they're managing their own health so well, so they don't need to actually see their GP, but we can confirm this by data, then we can add and provide more time for those that are really in need of having more visits. So I think that is the way to look at the solution forward.
Thank you very much, Daniel. There seems to be some appetite in the Nordics on the telemedicine and doing a Mindoktor in Sweden and so on. At the same time, we here in Korea have some great hospitals. I get the feeling in Korea everybody wants to go to the great hospitals and get the service. But is that possible in the future? So I think I would like to ask you, Dr. Ko, how do you see this? Do we need to find ways where we can, in a smarter way, service the people that do not all have to go to hospitals? In Denmark, we have the general practitioners that do some screening and helping. In Sweden, we have the Mindoktor. How do you see this? Are there any of the Nordic solutions you think could be useful in a Korean context and also in your new hospitals to be built?
I cannot pinpoint which solution it is, but like I said, the Korean New Deal contains the establishment of smart hospital. Smart hospital can be anything that's smart, that provide untact services. And maybe Nordic countries can find opportunities in the smart hospitals. And the other part is the Nordic country has the experience of combating with aging society, especially probably preventive medicine and remote healthcare, telemedicine, things like that. And for Korea, that's coming things. Aging society, like I presented, the speed of aging is the fastest in the world, and there are a lot of people suffering from chronic diseases expected to rise. So that kind of thing, the preventive medicine and for the elderly, using probably telemedicine if regulation is loosened. So maybe there a lot of Nordic countries can find the opportunities, but for the predictive and personalized medicine, I think you need a lot of data, but Korean firms tend to have more data than Nordic countries, so that's not the field. But for the preventive one and for the coming telemedicine, a lot of Nordic firms can find the opportunities, I think.
Thank you for these points.
And maybe that's a learning point already, that there are things to pick up. I think also from our side, as we have touched upon many times, Nordic Talk is also a concept for the engagement of our audience, and we have received quite a few questions. So I think we will introduce some of those from our viewers right now. I think they are in different directions, so we'll leave the floor to you.
Yes. First of all, for our Finnish speaker, Finland seems to have many digital solutions for healthcare. Was it difficult to launch these services?
Päivi, did you hear the question?
Yes, I heard it. Actually, I would say that not, because there is a long tradition in Finland for public sector to offer digital services, wide variety of digital services. So people are really used to use these digital services, and we have a good infrastructure also, and people are knowledgeable also. They can. We are a previous Nokia country, and still Nokia is here, and so there has been a lot of wearables and application and solutions, digital solutions. So that is so, and we had a lot of advantage of that when COVID came. So then people were ready to also use quickly their digital solutions in health sector. But I would also say that the trust element is very important also, so that we have been focusing also pretty much on the open public discussions during our preparation of legislation, so that people can participate then and they know and have information on what we are then preparing and why, and they really are it is really an important issue then that people can trust that when they give their information, it is in safe hands. And we have also systems then to check in our processes, so that other wrong persons then do they have then access to the data, or have they gone to see the data? And we have got also public sector workers, then professionals have got to then we have seen then people that have been checking information they are not allowed to see, and while they know in our system that there is a follow-up of this, so that then minimizes this kind of wrong use of the ability to see someone's data. So I would say that this trust element is important, and especially now when we are heading towards personalized health medicine and the genomic information and genome information, and we are preparing the legislation for genome center, and there it probably will be presented next spring here. Then it will be safer also for people and also for companies. Then there will be restrictions that what kind of information they will have access to. So these kinds of thoughts.
Thank you very much, Päivi. I truly think that was a very comprehensive response to a good question. We'll continue with the questions from our audience.
So, to our Danish speaker, why do Denmark reduce the number of hospitals, and how many patient beds are in the new hospitals?
Challenging question, Hans-Erik. Did you heard us?
Yeah, I heard you. Well, the reason we reduce the number of hospitals is that the increase in demand, the budget pressure, demanded that we established a plan to deliver healthcare services in a new way. I can put it in a way that with the demand increase we're seeing, the budget pressure, the answer to those challenges, it's not just to build more hospitals, because if we do that, we will soon run out of money. And that is the reason why we established this plan back in 2008 to work with our hospital structure. But of course, at the same time, to focus on increased digitalization, using the resources of the patients, but also working on delivering healthcare in new ways, more reliance on outpatient clinic, non-invasive surgery, more reliance on stronger primary healthcare. So that is the very reason, because when you do that kind of transformation, you don't need the same number of hospitals. And the important thing is the hospitals you have, they will have a different role. And that is the background for the hospital construction project. Then there was a question about the number of beds. I think we have 13,000 hospital beds in the country of Denmark right now, the 32 hospitals we have. You should bear in mind that the hospital project is also about consolidating hospitals. So we didn't close 63 hospitals between 2000 and now. We closed 25, but the rest of them were merged into groups of hospitals. And you can imagine if you were a hospital CEO and you were told now you can run these 4 city hospitals as one logical hospital, you would say, oh, there's a lot of productivity I can gain. And that is also one of the things we have achieved and the background for the hospital construction project.
Thank you very much, Hans-Erik. I think we should have time for one more question, a quick one.
So a question for the Swedish speaker. Do you share the data of the patient with the GP, And who has the overview of the patient's whole situation and doing the follow-up, etc.?
Yes, interesting question. And yes, we do. We have in Sweden also a national health record system where you as a patient can log on to see information about your health, your events that has been done throughout the healthcare system. But this can also be accessible or made accessible for different providers. For example, the patient's GP, so they can see all the events that have occurred at Mindoktor. Also, the patient have their own journal from the Mindoktor system that they always hopefully carry in their pocket. So if, for example, the GP is not connected to this national system, they can always show everything quite transparent. We have implemented what we call a continuity that is episodic, meaning that, for example, if we take action upon a patient, we start treating or send them for lab or X-ray. Of course, we have implemented continuity, meaning that the patient will then meet the same doctor to get an answer of the outcomes of the for example, the examination. But then when it comes to the more longer continuity, that is something that is relying on the GP. So we're trying to provide relevant data so they can actually have the overall responsibility for the patient. But of course, we're looking into becoming a more traditional caregiver as well. We have one primary care unit today, physical. We have 21 nurse-led retail clinics, so to speak, if we look at what's happening in North America, Walmart, CVS, etc. So we have those premises as well. So of course, we're trying to expand our service offering, not only within the digital area.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Einar, time is flying. I think we could have been talking and we can have filled up with questions for a long time this evening. It's an area that interests all of us. It should interest all of us, and it will continue to be important for us. But time flies, and that's a good sign when we're having interesting times as well. Before we slowly turn off, I would like to give the chance to all our speakers, all our panelists, for a short final statement. Maybe to challenge all of you, based on what we learned today and what we've heard from the other speakers, what key action point would you say is a good takeaway from your side? And do you have any suggestions to what should we start doing today? Maybe Professor Koh, I will challenge you first.
It's very hard. We have some regulatory hurdles for digital health service. But the thing is, the biggest hurdle is that our offline, the health service is very good, very good. We have the 70,000 beds, only second to Japan, and the quality of health service is quite high. I can tell you that because my sister lives in USA and my brother lives in Toronto. My parents actually thought of living together either with my brother or sister, but they decided to stay in Korea because of the health service. So digital health is quite important, but I think offline health service is also quite important. So with that kind of high standard of health service and the doctors oppose the digital health, then government is in the stalemate. It's very hard to push the policy. So that's the conundrum of the Korean policymaker. But like I said, because of the rising cost, because of the aging, to contain the cost, the preventive, especially preventive digital health, telemedicine is requisite for the future. It should be accomplished. So we make some compromises between doctors and government.
Compromises is a key word. As we said, maybe a short round also, maybe beginning with you, Daniel. Any key takeaways? What should we do from now on?
Yes, I think we need to implement the tools in a quite rapid way, because I think that will bring out the curiosity from all the healthcare professionals. That is how we have actually increased our service capabilities. Because when we give the tools to the healthcare professionals, they can understand how we should transform them in new ways or combine methods or whatever. So can we actually bring out this curiosity? I think that we can achieve a lot in a quite fast way. Also, I think that we as leaders need to have the courage to challenge, for example, the legislation. Yes, this is a heavily legislated area, but I mean, becoming a leader is about to challenge status quo, and I think we need to help all the professionals, of course. And don't forget to listen to the patient. What are their needs? How would they like to consume servers in the future? Yeah, quick remarks.
Wise advice there. Hans-Erik, anything you would like to add?
I think there's been a lot of good comments. I think we have a window of opportunity here, because unfortunately this crisis will not go away before probably mid next year. And what we have seen, what we have discussed is that things that are not possible in normal circumstances may be possible: cultural changes, innovation, public-private cooperation. So we have a window of opportunity, and I think this session is a very valuable exchange of experience, dialogue, inspiration from the Nordic countries to Korea and the other way. And one of the things I would suggest we do is to continue this dialogue, because I think that can help us all progress and get new ideas and use this window of opportunity. And thank you to the embassies for making this possible. It has been very valuable. Thank you.
We will certainly take you up on that. Trine, any comments from Oslo?
Yes, I agree with the others here. I think it's important that we are building boundaries across markets and teams. I think we are into this together, and I think the future technology will transform care and empower patients. Just a comment regarding the hospital and the building of hospitals. I think the next generation, it's not necessarily that they will go to the big, huge, white building to get treatment in the future. They might get the treatment elsewhere. So I think we are looking into the future with all these digital solutions that will empower the patients, but also give the patients different boundaries also to the caregivers and the institutions. So I think we have to be open for all the changes that are coming towards us quite fast.
Thank you, Trine. And last comment, perhaps from Päivi in Finland.
Thank you. I would say that and continue from what the others have said, that we should look more about the data crossing the borders. We would have already available a lot of solutions we could use in different countries, but it's like a jungle. Different countries have different kind of regulation, as our colleague from Korea said, that is one restriction, and we should then globally focus quite soon on common ethical rules and on also privacy rules, how we can have advantage of then the data. If you look the university world, there are already possibilities to study from wherever you are, then and get courses from other universities. That is, I would say, I would see then then a future also in healthcare, that you can pick up the best doctors and teams then from wherever in the world. So why not begin then from Nordic countries, work together so that we can. I see a lot of privileges that we could then offer on optimal test bed for innovation and development of new technology solutions. We have respect on rule of law. There is open societies and we have good regulation also. And our people are also very ready to use digital services. So let's together make a Nordic test bed.
Thank you very much. And I think you touch upon a very key element in all of our challenges. And that is also the basic idea behind this, cooperation. When we have challenges, we need to work together. And without cooperation, nothing is possible, but with cooperation, anything is possible. We have run a little bit over time, but so it's time to call it a night. I would like to thank all the speakers, our panelists, those who have joined us from the different countries in the Nordic countries, here in Seoul, here in Korea, and not least to our great audience, all of you who have been watching and listening to this from your computers back home. And of course also a special thank to all of you in our different embassies who have been working hard to make this evening possible. We know there's a lot of details in all of these virtual hybrid events, so thank you very much. The discussion tonight shows that we have come a long way in the Nordic countries. We have come a long way in Korea with regard to health tech and new innovations, and perhaps also helped by the COVID-19 situation. But we are only at the beginning of a development that will mean a lot to many people, I think to all of us. There's no doubt that the COVID-19 situation, that is perhaps one of the, if not the largest global challenges without wartime that we have experienced, and especially in this century. And we are still far away from a stable situation and what we can call a normal life, even though we are moving, hopefully, in the right direction. And our societies stand in front of many major challenges. And of course, we have to find ways to effectively meet these challenges with the solutions we have today and what we can do together to find new solutions for tomorrow. Many things unexplored, and we do need better solutions. And I think, therefore, cooperation is key. Don't you think, Einar?
Certainly. I think COVID-19 has forced us somehow to think differently, to revise, our way of doing things, or giving us new opportunities, as some of the speakers said tonight here. And as Dr. Ko said, we are all facing the situation of aging population. The numbers are quite high for Korea. So, but I think tonight we have heard or demonstrated how Korea and the Nordic countries play an important role in finding new ways. We are all innovative in terms of finding new solutions and new way of tackling problems, especially in the health and well-being of societies and individuals as such. And I hope we can find ways together with Korea to pave the way for innovative health solutions with global implications. We at the embassies, Nordic embassies here in Korea, stand ready to work closely with Korea on health and be the binding link to health institutions back in Denmark, and of all of the other Nordic countries, of course. Thank you again for a very interesting discussion. I hope you all left with some new insights and maybe some new contacts. Our next event will take place on the 5th of November. So stay tuned. 5th of November, we'll be back. And at that time, it will be sustainable food for the future. And I also encourage you all to sign up to our newsletter on www.nordictalkskorea.com. On the newsletter, you will find upcoming events. You will find when they are taking place, and we will advertise them as we go along. Thank you very much for participating tonight. It has been a long evening and morning for some back in Scandinavia. So we all look forward to a good weekend. Thank you. Kamsahamnida.
Good night.
Yeah.